Hi everyone, it's Heather from Creative Faith Art Studio, and I am going to show you today how to make this. It's that you can use it as a mailing envelope, I would think, or a file folder, or a storage envelope. I'm actually using, or I'm going to use this one as a photo storage envelope, so I can kind of keep my photos in order. So and I'm even thinking of making one for each month, so then I'd have a whole set of 12 folders. I can put in like a a standing file folder, a little box or something, and then I'd have that available so I can make my journaling and scrapbooking life a little easier. I do have some photo boxes, but I don't use them. I kind of like the photo box is long and it takes up a lot of space, and I kind of like the idea of having something that is right in front of me. It sits on my desk and I can just throw stuff in, and when when I sit down to journal, it'll be right there and I can grab it and get started. So I made one of these for some mail that I sent out, and I totally loved the way it turned out. So I'm going to show you what I did. This is a grocery bag. This is actually one that came from that antique store that I went through the other day. And so all it was a grocery bag, some glue. These are 8.5 by 11 pieces of scrapbook paper. These were cut down from a 12 by 12 sheet, but it's so you can buy 8.5 by 11 pads of scrapbook paper, so you wouldn't even need to cut this down. And then I used just some scrap paper and some washi tape to decorate a little bit. So I did use a little distress ink, so I'll show you exactly what I did. Super fast, and I loved it. I love the way it turned out. So I'm going to set these aside, and I'll show you what I did to the bag. So I take these, carefully take off the handles and get rid of those. And usually they come off really easily without damaging the bag. But then you can see, this top edge usually takes quite a beating because it's a grocery store bag. So I didn't even I didn't use a straight edge or anything. I just used these arrows and the please hold both handle words, and I just cut right as straight as I could across the top to give me a clean edge. And then I'm not going to do any measuring because I didn't measure on mine. I was originally going to use this fold, but to make the bottom of the pocket a little, to give you that, nice, clean, folded flap, I just kind of eyeballed it. So you come down, whatever that you want. If you want to measure it, maybe 2 inches down from that, from where your paper ends. So I basically used this line as my guide, where the bottom of the bag folds. You can see it better on this side, kind of down here. So again, just took my scissors, eyeballed it, and cut as straight as I could across there. Got rid of that. So now what you have is, got the basically top of the grocery bag. Okay. So, and then again, I'm going to take my paper, I'm going to put it on here, and see where I want the bottom of it to be. So I want this bottom edge to kind of be like right there. So I'm just going to take the bag and fold it. Try to make it as straight as possible, but I'm just going to fold it up. And then I did use a bone folder to kind of give it a nice crease, If you don't have one, just use kind of the back end of the handle with scissors and get a nice crease there. Okay, then you'll flatten that out, and I'm going to cut all of this. So I'm going to cut this off up until the back here, because I'm going to make, what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut off all this bulk on the inside, so this flap here is just by itself. So let me show you what I mean. I'm just going to go around the edge. Then when you fold that other side up, you won't have a big, giant ton of brown paper bag. In your way. So remember to stop when you get to that one point, because otherwise you'll end up cutting the whole thing off. So there's my strip that I cut off. And here is my bag. And see, I just cut off all that excess. Okay, so now I just have the one flap. Now this, what I did was I cut each of the corners off just to clean it up a little bit. You wouldn't have to do that, but I just like the way it turned out. So that's what I did originally, so that's what I'm going to do this time. So now you can see this folds up and there's not all that extra paper. And I'm just going to take my glue, and I use this. I have like tons of this stuff. I really like it, but then when my kids were, when we weren't homeschooling my two youngest kids, we did, and then we stopped. They went to a Lutheran school in a bigger city close by, and then now we're homeschooling again. But we had to buy this for their school supplies, so I've got lots of it. So, and then I just put some here. I'm going to seal up my envelope. Now on this, I'm showing you the quick and easy version, because this is the way I made it the other day. And I, again, really liked it. Now, you could add another flap like this on this side and not glue it, and then you'd end up having like a envelope you could close. You could also do it where, you know, you can trim off everything but a little tab maybe on the back, and then you'd have a file folder, which may come soon, but I'm gonna do it this way. Okay, so now I have the envelope made. This is all glued shut, so, and it's an accordion envelope. Still looks like a grocery bag. So this is when you, or I, or both, I'm going to glue on this cardstock. So now the one I made before, I think I left this a little bit bigger, but whatever, however you want to do it. I'm going to bring it up so it hides that arrow here. We're just going to glue this on. Do I want it to be this way? No, I want it to be this way. So, but I just want to cover up and hide the, obviously hide the grocery bag. There's nothing fancy about this cardstock or about this project. It's just a nice way, you know, when you go to the grocery store, I used to get all paper bags, and I double layer them, and I put, this is actually a trick that my mother-in-law did. She'd bring stuff down for us, and she didn't have them in double bagged paper grocery sacks. And then she would duct tape the two bags together around the top, and then double duct tape the handles together of the two bags. So it's a really nice sturdy bag. And so I started doing that. And I probably had like 15 of those bags. And we got a dog. And so had to, you know, obviously clean up the unmentionables from your dog. So I started getting plastic bags, which, you know, of course, again, you get a million of. And then I watched a tutorial on, let's see, I think I want that to go this way. I watched a tutorial on making, you know, accordion folders out of cardstock. And I think that was a Johanna Clow from Little Bindy. I think it was one of her YouTube tutorials. I just love everything she does, so it probably was. But she made one, and it's such a great idea, because I mean, I've got all kinds of things that could be filed away in file folders, but no, and I have filed folders, but they're just, you know, I don't have a lot of them, and they're ugly. So I thought this was such a neat idea. And then I was sitting there the other night, and I have all these paper sacks, and I was like, well, wait a second, they already have the accordion thing in the side, and they're just for me. I mean, do I care what they really look like? And then the answer is no. No, I really don't. So anyway, so I made one, and it was turned out so cute. I actually decided not to keep it for me, and I sent my a package off to somebody who I had promised to send some things to, and so I really hope she likes it, because I honestly, I was like, again, you know, you make stuff and you're like, oh my gosh, I really love that. I really don't want to give that away, but you do it anyway, because that's the right thing to do. So yeah, I gave it away, and I thought it was beautiful. So yeah, and again, this is probably the longest part of it, is just getting the glue on this cardstock. But you could cover it, you know, you could cover it with anything. You could use contact paper or wallpaper or whatever. It doesn't even matter. Just whatever you want. You know, you could paint the outside of the bag if you wanted to, so you could decorate it before you put the scrapbook paper on, or you could just paint it. I mean, I started a paper sack art journal that I'll show you when I am more comfortable with that. But yeah, and I mean, I just gessoed the whole bag, and you know, the outside of the bag, stitched them all together and gessoed it, and then to get a blank slate, you can do whatever you want to it. But so there, so now I've got the two things of scrapbook paper on. So what I did with the other one was I took this big bottle, because I don't have a big hole punch, and I lined it up right about in the middle. You know, again, I'm eyeballing it, I'm not being all that precise. And I took one of my fine tip pens, and I just, let's see, get it up a little bit, just drew a semicircle here, and then I cut it out, just the one side, so it had kind of a, this is actually a tricky thing too, because when you turn the pouch, the bag runs into your hand, and then so this can be a little frustrating, but patience. That's what I keep saying. Just have some patience. I don't know if you can hear my 6-year-old upstairs. He's playing a game. He's talking to himself, which is hilarious. So there. Cut that little guy out. You know, if you wanted to, you could save that and staple it into your journal. And then you have something fun to tuck something into. That's what I'm going to do. Alright, so now I've got the most of this is covered. And so now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use some washi tape. I used this, this big, wide washi tape. I think I got this from Washi Wednesday. Actually, I'm almost positive I got it from there. So I'm just going to measure this, eyeball it again. And cover up some of this on the back side. And I'm going to wrap it around to the other side. Now, this tape is transparent. Or not, I guess it's not transparent. The proper word would be translucent. Because if it was transparent, you could actually see through it like it was a window or something. But so then I'm going to take a little bit of this, and I love this. Again, this is also from Washi Wednesday. It's all chocolate, which of course, you know, whatever. I love chocolate, but I love it. All this tape, love it. So I'm going to cut this off here and put a stripe again to cover up some of the ugly. And then I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. Just gives it a little bit more visual appeal. It hides some of that dark green on the bag. And I love chocolate. So there you go. Okay, so almost done. Now I'm going to use my distress ink. So this is my homemade, I don't know what they call that, an ink dauber. Expo marker, and then I used one of those, just the felt side of a Velcro sticker, because I didn't have any of the fancy ones, and it works fine. I bought some of the fancy ones, but this works fine, and so I use it. I'm using the Vintage Photo Distress ink, and all I'm going to do is go around this edges of this paper to give it a little more, I don't know, character. Look at this whole thing. Another thing I found that works as far as distressing goes, it's a little more permanent, is I used a little bit of gel medium, and I put it on a plate, and then I put in a little bit of brown acrylic and a touch, just a smidge of black. And of course you could mix whatever colors you wanted together. You can do it however you want, but that's what I did. And then I used a baby wipe, so I could wipe some on to the surface. I did that for when I distressed some of the covers for some journals that I was making. I made that mixture, and then I put it on with a baby wipe and then wiped it off. So, and it turned out really nice. It was it wasn't as, didn't have that same, wasn't as thin, I guess, as the Distress ink, but it worked really well. And, again, I have it on hand, so it's a nice solution for my artistic dilemma, if you want to be dramatic. And this, honestly, it went a lot faster than this. Like, the Distress ink is nice, and these little daubers are really nice. But for doing something like this, I just don't have the patience for it. Like, if I can mix a little thing up on an old plate or something, using some gel medium and acrylic paint, and wipe it on and wipe it off with a towel, and I just get a whole lot more coverage in a way shorter period of time, I'm going to do it in a heartbeat. Because that's one of the reasons why I don't ever get to be artistic. It's because I don't have enough time. So, but this does look really nice, I must say. I mean, not to, pat myself on the back, but boy, oh boy, this looks nice. So, all right, so there's that. I'm going to set that aside just for now. So then, I'm going to take a piece of scrap, and I'm going to cut a little chunk off. Not being perfect or anything, I'm just going to do a little bit of hand lettering on here. So this is a Sharpie. It's an oil-based paint pen. It's metallic. I just got these at Michael's, and I do really like them. They can be a little, I don't know, because you know how these are one of those markers you push down to make the ink flow. So sorry about that. Someone needs me upstairs. And just write apparently I have to be quiet when I write, otherwise I'll probably just write what I'm saying instead of what I want. So, good things. And that's what I want to put in this folder. Just do a little. Okay, and then I'm going to use this same tape for a little background because I like the way it looks. It's subtle, which I think is better a lot of times than being right out. So we got two nice big pieces for a background. This guy's gonna go right here. I'm actually, oops, someone dropped something upstairs. Use a little bit of glue. And I'm gonna glue this down over the tape. Little tape background we just put on there. So again, this is, I don't know if you guys saw my flip through of my Little Engine That Could journal that I made. But this is some of that same, it's cardstock that I coffee dyed, and I did it, you know, in layers with other cardstock and some doilies and some paper. And so it's a yellow piece of cardstock where the orange bled onto it. And I, you know, it did that with the doilies, it did that on some of the paper, and I just love the way it turned out. I know you guys probably all do that too, where you know, all these happy little accidents that come around where when you're doing something artistic or being crafty, and then all of a sudden you got something that happens and you're like, oh my gosh, I love that. I probably will never be able to do that again. In this case you could, because you know how you did it. But so, and then we got to put our little chocolates on there again, just to kind of finish it off. And that's it. So what, like 15 minutes, used up a paper sack, used up some scrapbook paper. You know, you wouldn't have to do it this way. You could use, you know, you could make a collage, you could do it however you wanted to, but it's just a neat way to use up things that you have on hand, and it's, you know, something you can use. Like, I totally am going to use this. And if you wanted to, like what I'd really like to do, I think, and I may just add it to this one, is just add a little cardstock tab on the back. And then, you know, I could make a whole file system for my photos that I could keep out. And I would know photos and, you know, little prizes that you keep from different events, or, you know, tickets or anything. I love them. So I hope you find this helpful and try it. And if you do, please let me know. I'd love to, you know, if you want to share pictures with me, or please do, because I love to see what everyone else does. It's such a neat thing to, people are so creative, and everyone has different ideas and brings something different to, you know, the same project. So, or same concept. But, so, love to hear from you. Thanks so much for watching, and I will see you next time.